recording. So, hello, and for anyone who may end up watching this video besides me and Ike, this is Ike, who you may recall from live streams, making a bold appearance. So I'm happy to have the opportunity to type him. I'm going to skip the question I normally ask, which is how many of my typing sessions have you seen before? Because regardless, I know you've been around a live stream enough to hear us talk a fair amount about functions and stuff. So I'm going to presume that you've got a pretty good understanding of it. Before I begin, are there any instructions you want to give me or anything like that, or any information you want to tell me beforehand?
No, not really. Just a reaction to what you said about presuming that me seeing stuff assumes a good understanding. Okay, I don't want to be. I don't want to split hairs, but I would not say that.
Right.
But
Well, I mean, better than somebody who's totally unfamiliar with my approach or something.
gotcha.
Okay. Well, let me ask about. Try to switch up my approach here a bit today and see what kind of new fruits are uncovered thusly. If you were born into a world where it's a very agrarian society and everybody's a farmer of some sort, which sort of farmer would you prefer to be? One that grows a lot of vegetables, one that keeps animals, and why? Thank you, Dad.
Um, yeah, I believe you said vegetables versus animals, right?
Yeah.
I would go vegetables. Why would be because there's no behavior involved to
Okay.
deal with. No, you know, these cows over here this way. Those are, in other words, there's no behavior, not a lot of moving parts and all kinds of complicated things to deal with. It's just, it's a simpler system, I would say.
Well, what if I add in a factor that whatever you choose becomes the majority of your diet?
Ooh, that's quite interesting right now because I'm a keto.
So, in order to stay in your diet, you're going to have to choose animal husbandry, then, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I would have to do that. It will be, it. I would. I could do it. Yeah, sure. Because the diet is important enough that I will sustain the pain of having to deal with behavior.
Okay. Now, let's remove the diet question. Can you think of other, assuming the diet is totally up to you regardless, can you think of other advantages of plants over animal raising besides the ones you named so far? Namely, that behaviors.
Okay, well, typically it depends on the kind of plant you're growing. I mean, you mentioned vegetables, so there is a cycle, which is typically within a 1 year cycle. You got some beans and some corn over the period of a year. It's done. You harvest. You move over. You get your proceeds and you learn, right? As a result, and you're able to reiterate. So I think there'll be more iterations, generally speaking, in the for the plants.
What?
Um,
How is that advantageous?
because if this is a society where everyone is an agricultural person, and that's what I'll be doing also forever, then not only will it be advantageous for me because I'll be getting better and better each year, but I think I'll be able to perhaps reap some, teach some people, get some extra whatever. It's good to be the best, grow the plumpest tomatoes on the block compared to everyone else, something like that.
Okay. Can you think of another? Can you think of another disadvantage of animals?
Another disadvantage of animals. Okay. Well, shitting all over the place.
Okay. Yeah. The first thing that came to my mind when I asked the question was, well, the animals would smell. Most animals that you farm smell. Like there used to be a duck farm off the freeway here, and it's smelly. Okay, so how much care do you take in setting up your environment like this normally? Or is this normal for you, or did you set it up like this in anticipation of making this video?
I like to set things up. So this is
Normal.
it's normal, yeah, but there is a setup to it, right? I didn't just
But I mean,
blow
this
it
is
out of
how
this.
you normally are with your space. It's pretty tidy and it's arranged and stuff.
Yes, because I'm quite busy and I like to. Well, that's the table where pencils are,
Right.
and this is my
Okay.
stand-up desk, and my sit-down desk is over there. When I'm tired and I want to write on the blackboard, that's that black, that kind of thing.
A stand up desk and a sit down desk. That's really interesting. I do stand up quite a bit when I'm doing stuff, but I stand up a lot when I'm watching TV.
Mm.
Do you find you want to change from sitting to standing frequently?
Yes. Now the one thing, well, this is a result of like experimentation, if you will. Basically, there is the task switching, which means you're tired of doing working on spreadsheets,
Uh huh.
right? You think you're tired generally,
Uh
but no,
huh.
you're just tired of working on spreadsheets. So now you switch all of a sudden to a piece of paper and a pen. Now I'm talking about medium switching now,
Uh huh.
besides even just task. And then also there's position switching, standing versus sitting. And then there's the just going downstairs to the kitchen or going to Starbucks switching, and all of a sudden you have energy. So point being, I want to be able to work those 16 hours nonstop, and these little hacks there help you.
Yeah. Do you have to set reminders to yourself for when to get yourself food and drinks?
Um, no, I wouldn't say so. But I could just coast past, having to. I don't have like a set time, in other words, right? Where it's like it's got to happen, but I don't have reminders. No.
Do you periodically check your bodily state and see if you're hungry, or does it just hit you all of a sudden? Oh gosh, I'm hungry.
It kind of hits me all of a sudden. Perhaps the whole checking of bodily state thing. Um, so I practice meditation, right? So it's more of a formal thing that I do for a whole host of reasons, not particular to being hungry or something.
Which do you think meditation more improves your emotional state of being or your physical state of being?
I would say my emotional state of being.
Okay. Does it make you happier or calmer or both or something else?
I think of the word equanimity, so it'll be calmer, um, ability to withstand both external and internal perturbations of all kind, be able to create that sense of separation and observation, so on and so forth.
How how often do you think it is that instances of anger are the appropriate emotional response to something?
Appropriate. Ah, often. Probably like
How about
5%.
desirable?
Desirable. Less than 5%.
Okay. What makes the emotional state of anger a desirable reality to exist within somebody as opposed to, say, somebody who never gets angry about anything?
It would be desirable because within that 5% of instances, there is a lot of power, right, involved. And it is a tool. When wielded properly, you can get things done, get your point across, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Um, how how many different projects do you work on have on your sort of virtual life's desktop of stuff that you I work a little bit on this, I work a little bit on that, I work a little bit on this, I work a little bit on that. How many can you keep on your plate as active things that you switch between?
Interesting. So it there tends to be a lot. I to give you a number will be kind of difficult. But if I were to look at like right now, okay, I'm working on at least three kind of design projects with deadlines tomorrow, engineering stuff. And that's just like the work stuff. And then there are other things that are kind of out there in the back burner. Got a couple of songs I'm kind of half writing and this and that and the other. And so there all I would say I can keep like eight burners going.
Okay, a little tip for you. Whenever doing engineering stuff, mechanical engineering stuff, always use wing nuts. You can turn them with your fingers.
Okay, good.
Yeah, some good advice. Just general good advice for all the engineers out there as well. All right, so do you have an exercise regimen, like jogging or playing a sport that you consider working out?
I do try to work out. These days it's bicycle riding. I just get on, I ride around, and then I might do some yoga with the P90X video if you're kind of familiar with that P90X thing, but whatever.
Do you try to make your bicycle riding concurrent with transportation needs to kill two birds with one stone, or do you just make bicycle riding exclusively an exercise thing?
I make it an exercise thing. I'm not really trying to go anywhere on bicycle anyway. I try not to, especially given the COVID thing, slightly tangential but perhaps relevant. Now you have food delivery in terms of grocery delivery even has gotten better. Not having to leave the house, in other words, is now very conducive. And I try not to leave the house.
So, do you find yourself wishing for an occasional more like gathering of people, or do you find like I don't really miss that at all? It's something that I used to have to do that now I don't do it, and it's like, phew, that was kind of a pain in the ass anyway.
I don't miss it. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, last weekend, I was in a it was a conference in Vegas. Um, I think I was almost ill by the time I was coming home. It was 3 days of people.
Stimulus overload.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. What bothers you more when you're feeling stimulus overload in general? Is it flashing lights or blinking noises?
Hmm. It's the people.
Okay.
It's neither of those
Is
things.
it people when even when they're not engaging with you, just the fact that they're all around and they're requiring you to look and note them in their ways, or is it only when they're engaging with you?
This is an interesting question because I think that both affect me because I'm thinking like, why do I get drained just at airports and so on and so forth? And then I'm thinking, okay, flying does things to you, which we know about. You're getting dehydrated, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. And maybe traveling is stressful in and of itself. But no, I just think that standing in that terminal with all these people around just does something. Um, so and then also if they're engaging me, right? The feeling I get of not wanting this to be prolonged would suggest that I also do get drained by that.
Okay. Um, do you when you walk into a new place, do you look around a lot? Do you note if you look around a lot? Do you not note that? Is it hard to recall whether you look around a lot or something else?
Naturally, I don't. Um, it is a meditative practice of mine now to do so.
Okay. And when you do, what do you observe? Or what are you thinking you might observe? Or are you just doing so without any expectations, but simply to observe?
So mainly, I go with. I know you say look around, right? But the sound is what I'm trying to gather first, right? Walk into a grocery store and you're hearing the beeping and the rolling up the carts and this and that. I want to absorb all that. And then what else do I observe? Uh, Perhaps lights and stuff like that. I tend to look up there. Uh, I'm 6'4", so I kind of perhaps that has something to do with it. But the last thing is typically things on the floor. So things up there, uh, lights, I would say.
It's interesting when one imagines entering a store. You could always one can do the one hand clap sound of one hand clapping, which is to say, sort of allow one's audio field to pick up all the various tapestries of sound from all directions coming at you, and it's very much it's very much more of a mushmash of different things. There's a lot more different events going on the soundscape than there are on any other level. Like if you
Mhm.
if you look around, you'll note different scenes of these people over there, those people over there, this thing, and it's usually centering around people or different situations, like a stack of boxes blocking the path over there, or so. But there'll be fewer of those than there are sounds always. Uh,
Mhm.
so, what made you decide to do like? How did you come to determine that's worthwhile doing, going in and sort of immersing yourself in the soundscape like that?
Well, the overarching principle there is that you want to be comfortable in that equanimity thing again. Want to be calm. And generally speaking, when you acclimate yourself to whatever sensory input is in a place, when you get used to a place, if you will, then you are more calm. So if it's your bedroom or your bathroom or whatever, yes, both the sight and the sounds and the everything, you're kind of used to that. So you're like, I'm in my room, I'm chilling. So what I'm trying to do there is I'm trying to own every room I'm getting into. And I found that the sounds tend to be the ones that are more, shall we say, I think the things you've alluded to, or variable, different kinds of things going on. A floor is a floor, ceiling is a ceiling, blah, blah, blah. I've seen those before. But what are the sounds that are going on here? And once those go in, I feel like okay, now my senses are acclimated to things, and I do some music performing, and I also do like some just presentations. I'm more customer facing in my engineering, if you will. So one skill that I've learned from my music performance was to before I go into a bar, right? I sit in different positions in that room. I feel, taste, touch, smell the room. I by default become the most comfortable person in the room. And that's great for performance because what you want to be in that room is the most comfortable person in the room. So when I go to a boardroom and I'm going to give a presentation to people, I'm the only person that has looked at that room from all these different angles. So it's their boardroom, it's your living room or whatever, but I'm just as comfortable with that. So that I don't have to worry about that now. I can just do my thing.
Interesting. Um, if you didn't do that process, uh, so like okay, you're talking about going to the supermarket, right? Let me give you a default of how I enter into the supermarket. So anyway, Rachel, then I was like, meow, 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 meow. That's how I normally enter into the supermarket. I'm in the middle of telling Rachel a story about something or explaining something or pontificating about something, right? So it's like, if you weren't doing what you're doing, entering into the store, listening to the sounds and stuff like that, what would be your default way of entering?
I'll be lost in a thought somewhere.
Okay. All right. Um, and okay. Can you break the task of resizing a pair of pants to be bigger into 6 steps?
Okay. Well, they always say measure twice, cut once. So first you want to measure, and then you want to and measuring precisely because uh, how big, how much bigger. So you're taking measurements that pertain to what needs to change and where it needs to change, right? And then you want to go through the process of opening, right? You're going to need to take something apart, right?
Yeah.
So, is it a seam here? What kind of seam is it? What kind of is the stitching and so on and so forth? Do I have enough material? The third, well, this is I guess I'm not so good at breaking things into the steps thing here, but generally speaking, okay, if I okay, step number one, you measure. Step number two, you're opening. Step number three, you are you're perhaps needing to add material if there isn't enough. Step number four, I'm assuming you're closing things back, and you I ran out of steps.
Okay. So I guess if I were gonna try to do that, I'd never asked that question before. I'd probably say you you measure the waist, and that's step one. Subtract the number of the pants size waist from the human size waist to get the amount of additional space you need. That's step two. Let's say it's 5 inches. You then cut a slit down probably about 7 inches down one of the seams, and you probably have to cut a that's step three. Cut a V shape, I guess, and then step four, you insert the new fabric. Step five, you sew up both sides of the new fabric, and step six, you trim it clean.
Ah,
So okay, interesting. You're you're quite at home answering how-to questions. It seems. Let's test that notion out a bit more though, because it's like there's the direct skill correlate that I try to test there with that, which is the ability to ordinate. But there's a general value of solvency, which I don't think is predominant, but which I think is good, perhaps indicative of something that is going to prove to be a red herring that might be confusing to some people. So let me ask this question, if I, without engaging in further enigmatic nonsense. Let me ask this question: how would I go about making um, making my own public relations company?
making your own public relations company.
Starting and succeeding as my own public relations company. Like I want to go in the business of doing public relations for other people. Okay, I'm not public relating for myself. I'm public relating for other people.
Okay. And I like that you didn't ask me about steps and stuff like that. Good.
No steps. Just in general, how would I go about doing that?
I think that the overarching principle with doing something like that is to get a customer. In other words, the customer could be your daughter. It could be whomever it may be. Maybe, hey, Rachel, you do that, whatever she does. She makes candles or something like that. How about how about do some public relations for you? Now, the idea is the customer will help give you product market fit, right? So they'll tell you, because you may have some idea in the back of your head about, oh, I have this particular scheme. It's going to be great. Everyone's going to love it. To use an analogy, I have this app, everyone's going to love the features. I have this particular restaurant I'm trying to make. Everyone's going to love the tiramisu. But the immediate, when you start supplying, when you have that one customer, no one cares about the tiramisu. They only like the French fries. So Rachel's going to tell you, I'm not so particularly great with public relations, but whatever it is, there are features to these things. Whatever it is that is most important to her, you're going to immediately learn and you're going to adjust that accordingly, right? And then you're going to use her as a little test case. And then what you want to do is you want to ask her to recommend, right, this thing to other people. Um, and you then go find more customers. This is the this is what I call the important stuff. On the side, you're going to perhaps want to find a name, right? Website, is it an LLC or incorporation? Blah, 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 blah. However, the most important thing is to start doing it right now. Okay, preferably for somebody, because that way you get to bump into the reality of the ecosystem, the client. They give you product market fit, and also they hold you accountable because if you just say, "Oh, I'm going to do a public relations company," and then you go step one, step two, and then you stop. But when you've promised Rachel that you're going to deliver, now you better deliver. When you told Rachel to recommend you to someone else, when she's like, "Oh, my aunt wants it," now you better do it. So I would say that that's how we go about doing it.
Interesting. That's good advice. Unfortunately, I don't want to start a public relations company. um, so I guess that renders your good advice not good advice for me. Okay, let's see. Let me ask about the following. So, do you use that technique to avoid procrastinating or overcommitting or something like that on yourself?
I use it to, yes, to hold myself accountable, and all the things that make you not accountable, such as procrastinating. Yes, they get solved by that problem. Yes.
Which problem is a worse problem for you, procrastinating or overcommitting?
I would say procrastinating. Now, the reason I say that is because I tend to overcommit, but I think I can do it anyways if I don't procrastinate so damn much.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Um, how do you know when you've had a good day versus a bad day?
How do you know? Ugh. So, I tend not to categorize things that way in terms of a good day, a bad day. Presumably, if I'm having some kind of an experience where I'm not getting desired outcomes, or oh my God, I met this guy and I'm not prepared, and he's about to, I know he's going to stab me in the back in this particular situation, and I was not expecting it. I'll know that that's not an optimal situation. But good day, bad day, waking up on the wrong side of the bed today versus it's not tends not to be my thing. I don't think so. However, if I were to answer the question, the way I would know is, um, and another thing is, you could be tired. You could have uh, when at the end of the day, I'm about to go to bed, and I look back and I'm like, oh my God, I did a ton of crap today. Okay. Like boom, 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 things firing on all cylinders, all that kind of stuff, you know? And that's a good day. When I'm about to go to bed and I'm like, what the hell did I do today? Like, what outcomes? How did I further, again, those eight burners? Did I move forward in any one of these eight burners, or was it just kind of thinking about this? That's for me a good day versus a bad day. Yeah, yeah, I'd
Okay.
say so.
Um, so interesting. Uh, if if only a professional carpet cleaner can get these stains out, and I attempt to get these stains out, do I have a chance?
Are you a professional carpet cleaner?
No.
You don't have a chance.
Okay. If some potatoes are also carrots, and some carrots are also pieces of broccoli, is it necessarily the case that some potatoes are pieces of broccoli?
No.
Okay. Um, have you ever sustained a relationship with a person who treated you unfairly, and then you felt eventually like you had to break it off because of the unfairness?
Hmm. Um. That's interesting. Um. I tend not to think about fairness too much.
Okay.
um, and if it becomes enough of a problem that I have to think, oh, this is unfair, I tend not to let it get there, or it would have already been broken off. So I'm not gonna let them do that to me.
I
Um,
see.
so yeah, it might be possible that I was in a relationship with someone treating me unfairly, blah 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 blah. But it turns out that I don't think about it. But if rises to the level where I'm thinking about it that way, then it's like, go away.
Yeah. um. Okay. What's the worst foul for somebody who's functioning as a partner in a social setting, which is to say they're either a relationship partner or they're a friend who, but it's just you and that friend who's together, whatever your relationship with the other person. The point is you're functioning as a pair at that moment. What's worse, that that your partner in crime at this party or whatever goes off uh, and takes up with some other person and then goes off to go do, you know, do whatever someplace else, and kind of bails on you, or that they're hanging with you the whole evening, but they keep making social mistakes and embarrassing themselves and you by proxy throughout the evening.
Hmm. I would say the latter is worse than the former.
Okay. Do you feel it's because you have few expectations regarding the former? Do you expect them to hang around?
I don't expect them to hang around, and I don't really feel anything about, yeah, if they left, I'm not going to feel abandoned or anything like that, you know. As a matter of fact, yeah, I expect people to be free range.
Okay. So, do you think that do you have expectations that person meow will provide meow for you because they love you?
No, no. I usually, well, the person meow will do meow because of reasons. I tend to think, I know that's stupid. Do things for reasons per se, but that's just my general default mode is to not to be able to have expectations of things as vague as love.
All right. So, let's say some terrible thing were to occur, some Armageddon type thing in your life. It's Armageddon to you personally, but not to the world. Uh, and you had to turn to people. Would you say to them, um, would you have in your mind, well, I've done more for them historically, given more than to them than they've to me, so they're a good person for me to turn to. Whereas this person, they've historically given more to me than I've given to them, so they're a less good person to turn to, or vice versa.
Okay. Who do I turn to? Someone that I have given more to,
Or someone who's given more to you.
someone who's given more to me. And and I have to turn to them.
You have to. Something Armageddon has happened.
I would go to someone that I've given more to.
On the grounds that you'd have equity on your side for them to help you. You wouldn't be putting yourself in their debt, or that they'd be feel more obligated to help you, or that it would be fair of you to ask them, or what?
Yeah, obviously, I would say that it's a given that these two choices are equally capable of helping me. I don't like to get into a situation people, where I feel indebted to people. So if I've been giving over there, then it's like, okay, well, I guess I can go ask for something, right?
Right.
But if I'm been asking over there, it's like, I'll go over there again. It's like, I don't want to do that.
Right. um, Okay, I was just gonna ask something. Oh, right. So there's a situation. There's this forest, the place where the forest meets the sea. Okay, and at the beachfront of the forest meets the sea, a crab named Squirrel and a squirrel named Crab have become friends. Can you explain to me some of the challenges they face?
Okay. You see, the squirrel always wants to go into the forest, right? To get those juicy nuts and stuff like that. The crab can't venture too far. Don't know too much about crabs, but I'm assuming that they want to be close to the blah blah blah. And then they're trying to figure out, well, how do we make the beachfront more forest-like? And the crab named Squirrel is saying, hey, how do I perhaps I could help you make, or how could you, Mr. Squirrel named Crab, help make that other area, the forest area, more beach-like? And perhaps they, dig a trench, get some salt water into the forest, find a little lake, or some kind of not man-made, but crab and squirrel-made lake there, and then there'll be a whole bunch of trees and nuts, and also salt water and whatever that the crab needs, and they might live happily ever after. But I would assume those are the kinds of challenges, and that way they can have optimal, maximum amount of time to hang out.
Okay. What if a mollusk named Clam, which I guess is a kind of mollusk? I'm not sure though. But a mollusk named Clam shows up and she says, "Hey, squirrel." And both the crab and the squirrel turn their head and say, "What, mollusk? How are they going to resolve this problem?"
Hmm. Well, it's simple. They don't know. I mean, if they don't know, Mrs.
Miss Mollusk?
Mollusk named, well, Miss Mollusk named Clam,
Right.
then it should be obvious to them that mollusk is referring to the actual squirrel.
But mollusk isn't referring to squirrel. Crab
No,
is.
no, no. Oh, I'm sorry.
Remember, it's the crab is named squirrel, the squirrel is named crab, and the mollusk is named clam.
Uh-huh.
But to confuse things, her last name is squirrel hyphen crab.
Okay, well then that has nothing to do with it. What her
I,
last name is, that has nothing to do with it.
okay, I'm at this point just devolving into silliness. All right, so let me get back to being serious here for a second. Um, what do you feel more coordinated with? Fine motor, like guitar, piano, typing on a keyboard, video games, or gross motor, like tennis, hockey, uh, stuff like that.
Hmm. I would say gross.
Okay. Um, how many uh, how many different how many different shirts do you have?
Just number of shirts or different types of shirts.
Number of shirts. I mean, how many total shirts do you have?
uh, there are a lot. Yeah, at
How many
least.
types of shirts do you have?
Okay. I don't really have many types. I would say that I have let's just say at least four types of shirts. I got the polo shirts, you know. I have the dress shirts, non French cuff dress shirts, French cuff dress shirts, and then I have things which would be considered like t-shirts for working out, or even something like this would be more like a tee, just a no collar, not a polo. In other words, I don't think I have any other kinds of shirts. Other
Are French cuff shirts the ones that require cufflinks?
Yes.
Well, that's pretty fancy. You got some fancy clothes there. Because if you
Uh
have shirts that require cufflinks, you know what else you must have? You must have
Cufflinks.
cufflinks.
Yes.
How many different pairs of cufflinks do you have?
Um, about 8.
Okay. Do you have a favorite pair of cufflinks, or do you match them to the shirt?
I do the matching thing, but I do have a favorite one. Well, I guess there's one that kind of fits very many, all kinds, right?
Uh
And then
huh.
there's one that has a more of like a purple thing going on that I really like. And it doesn't necessarily have to match perfectly. It's purple and silver. So if it can match, plus also if you're wearing a cufflink, okay, you get that. You're probably also doing the tie and
Well,
also
yeah.
doing the pocket square thing. So you can always find purple in there somewhere so that you can wear your favorite cufflink.
Or it's after work, in which case you got the tie on still, but down like this, and you're looking disheveled, and you got, maybe maybe the cufflink only in one hole in the sleeve rolled up, and you're playing poker and drinking whiskey from a highball glass.
You know how this goes.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, do you collect anything? Like, do you have anything that you just go, ooh, there's a meow, 19 meow meow meow, meow, and get it because it's part of your collection?
No, that has never quite happened in a sustained way. I may think about it, and it would only be something that would be useful. Like, let's say let's say for example, I decided to start collecting scotch, right? Which they're not to drink much anymore. I just kind of reserve it for, just it's part of the keto thing. It's not, it's just part of the keto thing. Um, but it'll be something like that.
You gotta drink
What you
scotch as part of the keto diet? I didn't know scotch was a
No, no.
requirement in the keto diet.
So I'm I'm not a stickler like some people are like like the bakers. Bakers are like chemists. They measure everything, and when I say I'm on keto, I I'm doing my own keto, and I know that there's sugar in the scotch or in the alcohol.
Oh,
I
so
go
you're
with
not
how it.
you're not allowed to have it, is what you're saying. I
No,
I thought you were saying you
do.
were supposed to have it with the keto
Oh, gotcha, gotcha,
diet.
gotcha, gotcha. Oh no, yeah, yeah. For me, I'm not doing it, but I know you can. But you got to measure things. You gotta like, but I don't like the measuring stuff.
Oh
I
yeah,
just do
sure.
what makes sense to me. Like
No, it makes sense that you're not supposed to. I was thinking you were saying you're supposed to have scotch with keto.
That's a difference. No, you gotta have the
You
scotch.
gotta try this
My
keto.
lunchtime.
You gotta try this keto diet. It includes plenty of scotch.
Yeah, but I will collect something like that. Because I like to cook. I like I was just eating. I just made a lamb chop and I was eating it. It was great. Um, I do like to cook, and I do like to the degree to which I do any social things.
do
I
you
like
have,
to be a host.
do you have music gear like guitars, amps, and stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not a guitarist, but I have one. I have a keyboard.
You got a
Let me put it
keyboard,
this way: I'm a studio
right? So you
musician.
have some gear, regardless of
I
what
got some
kind.
gear. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got
okay.
some gear.
But
Um,
would you call yourself a gearhead? Like you research like new gears coming out and how cool it is, and
no, no. I typically do a certain amount of research such that I'm getting something that is gonna last a long time. So it's like, okay, is this a nice workhorse microphone? Okay, I need a wireless microphone. The Sennheiser, blah blah blah, is the standard. I see it everywhere. I need this kind of a microphone. Okay, Joe Rogan uses this, for example, right? So I get that, and I'm not looking again. I don't. People come in like, oh, but you know that this on the other one. I'm like, I got it. I don't want to change. I don't want to look at it. Done.
what app do you use to record music?
Uh, when I need to revamp, okay, but Fruity Loops, you know, was kind of my thing, and then there was this one called Acid. Um, so that's kind of, but I haven't got new these days. I've been going to other people's studio, and such, but I am going to be getting something from a friend. I don't know what it's called, and I don't care what it's called. I just need something.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay, so how much time do you spend consuming media versus creating stuff?
Hmm. I do a lot of listening. So, I started listening to you, for example, recently. um, I'll listen to audiobooks. How much time? I'm doing both at the same time. I could be writing a song while listening to a podcast, right? But
Right.
I do a lot of listening. I don't have TV. I don't watch TV.
So
Huge distraction for me.
if there were to be video that required you to read subtitles because it was in a language you didn't speak, would you just it'd be like, no thanks, I don't have time for the reading part of that.
Yeah, I would try, but it's not. In other words, it's not going to be the best. Not going to be conducive. It'll not be a great experience for me.
Okay. When you listen to, you say, so you listen a lot more than you watch. When you listen, what percentage of the time do you think you're listening to music versus listening to talking?
Oh, it's more like 99% of the time I'm listening to talking.
Huh.
I don't really listen to music that much. No, no, I don't.
Interesting. So, was there a time period in your life when you listened to music more?
Yes, there was a time period in my life when I listened to music more. Yes, probably in college. Well, no, I was old because even back then I used to like do the talk radio thing. So, but yes, more was a little bit more balanced, I would say.
Okay, so what inspired you to make music?
Okay, the benefit of hindsight. Okay, so inspired me to make music. I would say that with the benefit of hindsight, okay, because it's not like these things tend not to be like it's like in real time you don't know what the hell's going on. But if you look back, I would say that one of the earliest memories I have of the whole performance thing was me and my brother, right? And this is my older brother, and he was young at the time, so I must have been really young, right? I must probably like 4 or something. And my parents had visitors, guests around, right? And they called us out to do some little song and dance thing that we apparently were doing at that age, right? And we were doing our thing. I remember that.
Hmm.
Then fast forward into like high school and stuff. I knew that for some reason I could really memorize lyrics. I hear something and I got it. So Bone Thugs and Harmony, you may know them.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, fast rapping stuff. If and in school, if you can recite the Bone Thugs and Harmony stuff, then you're a bit of the man. So being the loner weirdo of a certain kind, I'm not really that much of a loner weirdo. I have a circle of people, but I'm not particularly skilled at the whole whatever that thing is. But that was a tool for me to kind of shine, if you will. Hey, I go to a party, for example. Oh, there's a freestyling session going over there. I can go over there. I can do that. Oh, the dance floor is empty. I can start dancing. It's interesting that you use that analogy today when I did the super chat thing. I am that guy usually
Mm-hmm.
first on the dance floor, right? Um,
There's a quote
like,
from Ghostbusters, actually.
oh, okay,
You
okay.
remember? I don't know if you remember the film, but Rick
No, I don't.
Moranis.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Rick Moranis is in his apartment, and he's a tax accountant, and he's invited all his clients. And there's this one younger woman who's there with them, and he says, "Come on, maybe if we start dancing, everybody else will." It's I don't know. It's like it's a reference that I have in my memories because one of my teenage friends referenced it a lot, and so it
Mm.
stuck. And
Tends to work though. Tends to work.
let's talk a little bit about SI. Can you tell me a sequence of small events that of the few hours, a couple hours, a few hours before I started live streaming in your day?
A sequence of small events. Okay. I woke up and I took a shower. Um, and I got dressed because I was gonna do I have a training that I do on Sundays. I train employees of mine on stuff. So I got dressed up. Actually put on a three-piece suit, actually. And I had cufflinks on. uh okay, so I woke up, took a shower. Yeah, I already branched off
Put
into
on your cufflinks. You glimmered in the sun, and
yeah,
everyone emerged from the training session beaming with satisfaction and glory.
exactly.
Sounds like a good morning. Sounds like a hell of a morning. Okay. Uh, well, so what type do you think I think you are right now?
Ooh, what did I do? I think that you think. Okay. Um, introvert, right? Introverted TE user. Um, okay. Or well, okay. Or it could
I
be. It could
don't
be.
think you're an introvert. I don't think you're a TE user necessarily.
Jesus Christ. Okay, so I'm completely okay. ENTJ then.
Um, I don't think so. But I mean, I my current thought is that you're probably an ENTP.
Why? Here's the freestyling.
Well, it's you clearly are. It seems to me you've got a lot of you've got a fair amount of SI. Enough. Well, I mean, it could be as well. Let's see why. My initial thought was you're probably an INFJ, and
Hmm.
that remains the other thing that's in my head is you're one of those two. You're probably FE, not TE. Your TI is too good, really, to be TE, and your TE is too bad, really, to be TE. Or in other words, your TE is too generalized. It's not. It's not really. It's not really TE, which may make it more effective in certain contexts than actual
Hmm.
TE, right? But it feels more like 6 slot or I don't know 8 slot TE. You could be a particularly robust INTP, I suppose, but it could even be polar because what I was trying when I asked you that question, the put it into steps, and then I asked you the question without putting it into steps. My thought was at the time, you're probably an INFJ, and what I want to show here is that if you ask value correlates for TE, you're not necessarily going to get TE polar results. That's why you need to do the ordinality thing. But then when you gave me the response to it, it was regardless of the ordinality, it seemed to me to be too much TE for polar. In other words, your explanation made good sense and it accounted for it was good advice. It was better TE. It was TE. It resonated better along TE lines than I would expect from an INFJ.
Mhm.
And then, as I started listening to you more and saw how readily and easily you took up from the story idea. So I tossed you an idea about the crab and the squirrel. You take up with it. You take it up immediately and run with it without hesitating at all, without really gathering your thoughts particularly. So that would be indicative of comfort with an action function. So it's like on the other hand, it could be fifth slot, which would be INFJ again, or could be dominant in NE. I guess I haven't really fully tested out the expert intuition because there's just an obvious like I mean, you got to be some kind of intuitive. The other possible thing I was thinking was ENFJ, but it seems like your TI is too good for that, and that the ENFJ answer would resonate more with SE third slot because what you described at the end of the day about whether it's a good day or a bad day, that's suggestive of SE as an absolute value. However, it's also almost identical to how I sort of would answer it. At the end of the day, for me, it's the same thing. Well, did I get a lot of notable shit done that I can mark off of a list, kind of to say, well, this was hanging over me, but now it's not because I got it done? Good day. If I can't do that, then I probably feel like I wasted my time a little bit or something like that. So the fact that that answer was identical to my own kind of makes me think, well, that's probably not specific to SE third. There's something about life that probably everybody feels satisfaction when they get some shit done. So you're a bit of a confusing one. You obviously come in. Am I correct that you came in thinking you're TE?
Um, yeah, but this is because of my understanding of this is limited, as I mentioned earlier. But thinking I'm TE because somebody over there, someone is in my ear, some MBTI person saying, "Oh, you got the TE thing." But then whenever they tell me the difference between TE and TI, or whenever I look at my internal process, I'm like, I'm doing TI stuff. It may come across to you as TE, externally, because I'm good at doing stuff, I'm assuming, right?
The other thing is, it sounds to me like you get absolute value FE stuff going on, which is if I were younger, positioned like you were positioned, and and if life were a little different, I would approach wardrobe similarly. Like,
Mm,
I like the idea of looking snappy, but it has to be a context that is appropriate. So it's like, if the context is appropriate for snappy, then I want to really look sharp potentially.
yes, 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 yes. But if it's like, oh, go down the road and pick up whatever, then it's okay, whatever. You just put on the shirt with the arm cut off, and you do that.
But it's also the
But
case that it's not going to be something that I want to half-ass. So if I can't afford to really look like I want to look, then I'm probably just not going to care about it very much at all. You
yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. I would agree with that 100%. You gotta, and that's why I said I go for things that are gonna last because I want it to be proper, right? So you spend the decent amount of money in it, and then you take good care of it. You get the right shirt, you get the right suit, get it tailored, and it'll last you forever. That kind of a thing.
So the take good care of it part, like it sounds to me like you preserve your physical resources better than I do in general. Like for example, your physical space there is tidier than mine. Uh, I suspect you could attribute that to your proactive approach towards your ontology, meditating,
Yes,
and so forth.
it changed. In other words, I wasn't always like that. Like similar to the meditating thing, there were all these things I had to at some point, like towards the end of after graduating college, I had to kind of like physically change a lot of things in order to be more efficient or to be blah blah blah. Because I do like to do a bunch of things, and you can't have those eight burners going well if it's pure chaos.
The the thing is also when you listen to stuff, do you listen to it at one time speed? Do you listen to it faster than one time speed?
That's good. So that's a good thing. Um, so if it's like a book, there's an audio book of Beyond Good and Evil, Friedrich Nietzsche, right? Um, whom is he's not a particularly in other words, and I'm sure you know what Nietzsche is, but the particular thing I'm trying to point out is that he would say things like, well, what if truth were a woman? Could it not be said that most philosophers are blah blah blah? In other words, he's not like giving this kind of like like Heidegger or some other people that are just like page after page after page of line of code, and it's like, oh my god, I can't listen to that Heidegger in two times speed. But Nietzsche with just that intuitive flow, I'm like, yeah, bring it on. Just it's just like you can overload me
Okay.
with the visuals and yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So the thing is, that kind of eliminates ENTJ in general. ENTJs don't like processing auditory language. When they do, they have to give it their full attention, and they
Mm,
certainly wouldn't want to go double time. NTJs in general will say I go too fast for them to process everything I'm saying, especially when I'm trying to go, well, first of all, meow, meow, and second of all, meow, meow, and third of all, meow, meow, meow. And even INTJs will go like, okay, I had to go back and replay that to understand what you were saying. So the thing is, the high speed of audio processing is mostly typified of STPs and NTPs, and to a lesser extent INFJs, who also, I've catch Rachel all the time going double speed on things when she's listening to them, but at the same time, she doesn't want to go double speed on anime because she has to read it, and for her that's a slower process than listening. So the thing is, NTPs are the ones who probably are the most inclined to, I guess NTPs and STPs would be about the same, inclined to turn things up to high speed because their TI is faster than the conventionally accepted speed limits that are dictated by basically mouth dexterity and culture or whatever of how fast people speak. Our TI, if it's 1 or 2, is faster than how the fastest people ever speak. So we can always process before they get to the next thing. That's not the case for a lot of types who have TI in lower slots.
I see. So you're generally leaning towards ENTP,
Yeah.
not INTJ. You say.
I think you're an ENTP. Let's ask some FI questions to see if we can nail it down. But how do you feel right now, emotionally?
Oh. I would say normal. I can tell you how I don't feel. I don't feel elated. I don't feel sad. I don't feel well, I have energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that the level of energy tends to be the one for me that is like that's the thing that I can notice more. Like, do I have energy or do I not have energy? Right?
How do you physically feel right now? Do you have stiff neck, stiff shoulders, or sore back, or anything like that bothering you?
No, it's not. I do have a back issue, scoliosis. Spine is a little twisted. But right now, I don't feel back issue. No.
Well, you know what they say, Ike. The more twisty the spine, the sweeter the vine.
Ah!
Okay. So that's a textbook, just general TI and FE answer to how do you feel right now is normal, regular, fine. Like, what do you mean? I'm not currently feeling anything in particular. If I were, then it would be a state of disruption from my norm. If you ask somebody who's FI front stack, they'll tell you you are always walking around feeling an emotion at all times, and that that's true whether it's large and notable and noteworthy or not. And will reject the notion that there is such a state as regular. That's an emotion.
I see.
That's not regular. Is not an emotion, according to them. You know.
Yeah. And the thing is, with the meditation stuff, right, which I know would not be a good approach to answering that question. With the meditation stuff, I do pay attention to feelings in the body, whether they be internal or external senses and so on and so forth. Separating internal sensations that are emotional versus internal sensations that are just maybe like a hunger or desire or something like that. And also image in the head and talk in the head and observing that. But that's not what you're asking, right?
What's an emotion that's just hunger or desire?
What I mean is, you have internal sensations. Some of them are emotions, and some of them are not, such as instincts and drives. Like hunger, you would not say is an emotion, right?
Right.
So but it's an internal sensation.
What's an example of an internal sensation that is an emotion?
It tends to be more complex, and it also tends to highly involve. It'll affect the image and the talk in the head as well. More complex, for example.
But that's not an example.
You're asking for
what's an example of an emotion that's an internal sensation?
Okay. The internal sensation of an emotion. The internal sensation that's a part of an emotion you're asking for?
Yeah, well, I want an example of an emotion that has an internal sensation linked to it. Yes.
Oh, okay. Anger. Anger has...
Okay, and what's the internal sensation of anger? The thing is, you thought so well about this, but there's actually simple answers to these questions. Like, for
Oh,
example,
the thing is,
it's crazy. It's crazy that you thought so well about this, because, and still displaying such polar. Because the answer is, well, when you're sad, you have a lump in your throat,
okay. The thing I
like
think I
that.
gave
You know?
I gave a difficult one because I was gonna say a sinking sensation in the stomach, but that's not really anger. Like that heaviness in the heart, that's not really anger. But I think anger is a tough one because I think anger tends to be more like raising of the hair, heat in the back. It's more like of these external type of things. Raising of the heartbeat, man, not so much of a
Yeah,
sensation per
yeah.
se.
Raising the heart rate is a good one for anger. I think that's
Okay, I was
generally
about to say that, but
true.
I was like, is that really a feeling, or is that just? But yeah,
But
yeah,
okay,
I was.
so here's the deal. A lot of not just ENTPs, but ISTPs, for example, who have an eighth slot, or maybe even INTPs who have an eighth slot. They don't. When you ask them what's the physical sensation of emotions, they answer, "Well, emotions don't have physical sensations. They're just, they're just in your head." Of course, that rejects what their experience tells them. But the point is, being not FI conscious means their SI or NI, whichever knowledge function they have, doesn't note those events as significant enough to retain the actual data of or a meaning takeaway from, depending on which kind of knowledge function you have. And so, as a consequence, you just when asked the question directly, even though everybody's experience should be able to tell them that yes, sadness has a physical sensation associated with it. For people with a seventh or eighth slot, until somebody tells them that, usually they say no. That's not the no. Of course they don't. Of course emotions don't have physical sensations. That's what's different. Like hunger has a physical sensation. It's like my stomach's so hungry. Not emotion. That doesn't obviously. And when you go a lump in your throat, they go, oh yeah. So that's how it was for me. When Becky, I was 46 years old, and I had this argument, and Becky said, well, there's physical sensations associated with emotions. I'm like, no, there's not. Emotions are non-physical. They're just in your head or whatever. And she's like, well, what about a lump in the throat? I was like, oh, yeah, you're totally right. How could I have missed that? That's polar for you. So I think you're polar, even though you got there on your own a lot faster than I ever would have gotten there, which is never, because you spend more time doing, I guess, self-reflective stuff. I think you're an ENTP.
All right. Well, I will accept. I have heard a couple of people who claim to be well versed in this stuff. Two people. One says ENTP, one says INTJ, and they keep arguing with each other.
You are definitely not INTJ. Your FE is way too good.
Well, okay. Based on what? I'm curious.
The way you just managed that moment is very aware of how you're going to display to others in a fashion that an INTJ would not be that quick or conscious of, no matter how practiced they were. It's like you could phrase that a million different ways, right? You could approach that, raising that thing from this angle or that angle or this angle or whatever. You approached it from a very neutral, non-threatening kind of wanting to make sure that you're not conveying a sort of criticism of the other that you might reflexively tend to convey if you don't check yourself. Mm-hmm. So that's also consistent with ENTP.
Okay. Makes sense. Now, I always assumed that if I was good at FE, then I would not feel like killing myself after spending some time in Vegas around people.
It depends. I mean, being FE third slot is selfish for everybody. So FE is selfish. I like interacting with people via live stream. Why? Because I'm the only one who gets to talk.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, you're right. Like when I give a speech, for example, or if I'm doing a gig, or if I'm around a bunch of philosophers, for example, I'm good. But yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we're social and we're happy and we're friendly and people like us as long as we're only engaging when we want to on our terms. And if we're being compelled by reality to engage too much with too many people that we're not enjoying the engagement with, and especially if they're conflicting in their engagement approach such that we're having to restrain ourselves all the time because otherwise we're going to be dicks, then we get very tired of it very quickly and we want to withdraw rather than continue to suffer silently or not, not situations that don't allow you to solve them, in which you can't meaningfully even spend all your time complaining without being a problem and not being a team player, and then concurrently, you have to actually just sort of go along with a bunch of bullshit in order to fill your role successfully. That gets very, very old very fast for us, for ENTPs in general. We want everything. We'd like to be able to decide the correctness of every element of everything by ourselves and parse it all out. Like, this part of what we're doing is good. This is bad. This is not okay. You guys stop. You bam bam yeah. Ba 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 ba. This is how it should be. And I don't like the fact that it is how it should be, but it is how it is. But it's not how it should be. And the fact that I have no agency here to change the holistic thing or change the top level frame, which would what really needs to be changed. And so I just go, I'm washing my hands of this nonsense, sort of abstractly, and yet I'm still engaging with it physically, and I have to do that, but I want it to be as small duration as possible.
Makes perfect sense.
If it makes perfect sense, you're almost certainly an ENTP.
All right, well, I guess...
I don't type many of us either. I really don't. I don't... for the viewing audience I do have some audience members who like to watch the sessions in particular. It seems to me, based on your responses to things, that you probably haven't actually watched or listened to very many typing sessions.
No, I listened. I think I've listened to only one, and
Okay.
it was hilarious. It was in a good way, right? But it was the lady with the half camera half the time.
Oh, Grace, yeah.
The lady, 16-year-old, I believe she.
ISTP, yeah.
It was hilarious.
Boy, she was a hard ass, huh?
Yeah, because anyways, you were there, so you know.
Yeah, that was entertaining. I thought, normally I would never have one go that long, but that was...
The funniest part was when you mentioned the... Well, how about a stick with a chewing gum? And she said, "What stick?" I was like, a stick, any stick.
I talk about any polar, huh?
Like, what stick?
I shall use no piece of information not explicitly given to me. Okay, cool. So I'm going to stop recording now, and goodbye, viewing audience. Thank you for watching. Is it okay if I publish this?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Thank you.